His latest project chronicling the story of country music from the hollers of West Virginia to the fields of California.
Feuds in country music have never been calm or demure. They have been known to include all sorts of name-calling, personal attacks, lyrical jabs, and even the occasional small fire. Famous musicians in these feuds range from Toby Keith and Eric Church to Zack Brown and Hank Williams Jr. More recently, Brittany Aldean's clash with Maren Morris and Chase Rice's disagreement with Kelsea Ballerini made headlines. It's no coincidence that many of these conflicts have emerged in the past 2 decades. While it's true that feuds aren't a new thing in the industry, before the availability of cameras and the power of social media to escalate minor issues, these earlier feuds were often resolved more discreetly. Join us as we take a look at 20 of the most talked-about country music feuds of all time that still have fans talking about it today. Sometimes feuds come as a result of reckless statements without actively trying to start one, and that happens to be the case with our first case. We'll start from light now as we move on to more intense ones. Get ready to be shocked the further we go. 20. Miranda Lambert versus Eric Church. It all started when Eric Church mocked reality singing shows, taking a jab at those who use them to launch music careers. He was very specific, even going as far as dropping names as he said, "Honestly, if Blake Shelton and CeeLo Green just turn around in a red chair, you got a deal, that's crazy." This targeted statement was made in an interview with Rolling Stone and immediately sparked a furious backlash from Miranda Lambert, who was at the time already married to Blake Shelton. Miranda Lambert quickly voiced her frustration with Eric Church following his controversial comments in the Rolling Stone interview. She stated that he should be groveling for his statements, and that although she hadn't received a formal apology, she harbors no resentment and even feels some understanding toward the Springsteen singer. She then posted on her Yahoo saying, "I believe anyone can find themselves in a challenging interview scenario, and I've had things published about me that sounded much worse than intended. I know he said what he said, but it faded away like most things do. People love to label it a feud. It's not truly a feud. It's more like, dude, you really messed up and you're aware of it, and then you move forward." Later on, due to the many reactions by fans and critics alike, Eric Church, in a bid to salvage the situation, later clarified that he wasn't targeting anyone personally. The two artists have since moved on with no visible animosity or conflict breaking out after the events. Before this, though, Eric Church had once had a different face-off that started based on his troublesome nature. 19. Eric Church versus Rascal Flatts. Eric Church's early career was marked by a bold move during his time as an opening act for Rascal Flatts in 2006. Despite being given the opportunity to showcase his debut album, Sinners Like Me, he frequently exceeded his allotted performance time and volume levels, leading to tensions with the headlining band. Rascal Flatts attempted to accommodate him by offering earlier set times and extended durations, but it only seemed to encourage him to extend his performances, resulting in mounting fines for the trio. The situation resulted in a performance at Madison Square Garden where he played 20 minutes over his scheduled time, incurring significant costs for Rascal Flatts due to venue regulations. Consequently, he was removed from the tour. In response, he launched his own Me and Myself tour, performing in the same cities and on the same nights as Rascal Flatts, often in smaller venues. This move was noted by Rascal Flatts, who found it offensive and a clear taunt to them, despite having been generous and accommodating to him for as long as possible. Interestingly, Taylor Swift replaced him as the opening act for Rascal Flatts. He had joked that she owed him her first gold record for the opportunity to which she accepted and fulfilled. She had later sent him a signed plaque of her debut album with a note expressing gratitude for his role in her early career. While the incident initially isolated him within the country music community, he eventually achieved significant success, headlining major venues and earning recognition for his unique style. 18. Zack Brown versus Bryan. While country music is usually marked by mutual respect among artists, a rare feud broke out in 2013 between Bryan and Zack Brown. The clash started when Zack criticized Luke's hit, "That's My Kind of Night," calling it one of the worst songs he'd ever heard, and slamming its reliance on overused country tropes like tailgating and Daisy Dukes. He said he expected more substance from country music and felt fans deserved better. Aldean, a friend of Luke's, quickly came to his defense on Instagram, praising the song's popularity and dismissing the criticism. Zack later clarified that his issue was with the song itself and not with Luke as a person or artist. Although he stayed mostly quiet on the matter, his co-writer Dallas Davidson expressed that the comments were hurtful, likening the song to one of your babies. The feud, however, didn't last long. At the 2013 CMA Awards, hosts joked about the situation, prompting Bryan to run across the stage and hug Zack, even giving him a kiss on the cheek. This light-hearted moment showed that the two had put their differences behind them and resolved their feuds. 17. Johnny Cash versus the Grand Ole Opry. In 1965, Johnny Cash was banned from the Grand Ole Opry after a now legendary incident where he smashed stage lights with a microphone stand out of frustration over poor sound during his performance. At the time, he was battling drug addiction and becoming known for his unpredictable, rebellious behavior. This was something that didn't align with the Opry's conservative, polished image. The Opry had a reputation for strict standards and professionalism, and his actions were seen as disrespectful. As a result, he wasn't invited back for many years. However, the ban didn't slow him down. He went on to become an even bigger star, embracing his outlaw image and giving a voice to the marginalized through songs and activism. Years later, after overcoming his struggles and solidifying his legendary status, the Grand Ole Opry welcomed him back. The moment marked not just a personal redemption for him, but a recognition of how his influence helped reshape country music's boundaries and spirit. 16. Jason Isbell versus Jake Owen. Country artists Jason Isbell and Jake Owen weighed in on the controversy surrounding Jason Aldean's song "Try That" in a Small Town last year. The track had faced heavy backlash, with critics labeling it racist and pro-lynching. Aldean defended himself on Twitter earlier in the week. In response, Isbell took a more pointed jab the following day, challenging Aldean's artistic credibility. He then returned, "Let's see Aldean write his next song by himself. That's how we do it in my small town," Isbell tweeted. He later followed up by tagging Aldean directly, urging him to write a song solo as a true artist. Many critics of the song had already noted that Aldean wasn't one of the credited songwriters, but it was actually penned by Neil Thrasher, Kurt Allison, Tully Kennedy, and Kelly Lovelace. Jake Owen, however, didn't appreciate Isbell's approach. He fired back, accusing Isbell of being quick to talk tough online, but not in person. "In my small town, we handle things face to face," suggesting Isbell should have spoken to Aldean directly instead of tweeting. Isbell responded by criticizing Jack's attitude, saying it implied that only those who could win a physical confrontation had the right to speak their mind. "What message does that send to people who aren't physically strong?" he asked. Owen didn't continue the argument directly, but later posted a more general Twitter thread reflecting on the songwriting process. 15. Kelsea Ballerini versus Chase Rice. The disagreement between Kelsea Ballerini and Chase Rice emerged in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic over concerns raised about his concert. Chase Rice held a show in Tennessee where a large crowd gathered without much social distancing or mask wearing. A video from the event circulated online, drawing backlash from various people, one of which was Kelsea. She was quick to respond, criticizing the event on Twitter without directly naming Rice, saying it was irresponsible to put fans' health at risk just for a show. She emphasized that while artists missed touring, protecting fans and their families was more important. She went as far as calling him selfish for letting things develop to that extent. Chase didn't address her directly, but defended the concert, saying he was excited to perform again, and encouraged fans to make their own choices about attending. This situation showed that some artists prioritized safety, while others were eager to get back on stage. Kelsea Ballerini and Chase Rice just found themselves on opposite sides of that debate. 14. Garth Brooks versus Waylon Jennings. The definition of popular music changed dramatically as Nashville entered the 80s and 90s. Artists like George, Winona, and Toby stepped into the spotlight with the rise of pop country, leaving legendary figures such as Chris, Jerry Lee, and Glenn more in the background, still respected but seen as part of an earlier era. This shift caused friction between generations and sparked tension among artists, most notably between Waylon and Garth. Waylon and Garth had completely different musical styles. Waylon, a gritty, rock-influenced founder of outlaw country, had a rough-around-the-edges persona. Garth, on the other hand, came off as more wholesome, with music that leaned on catchiness and mass appeal. Both were key figures in country music history, but they had little appreciation for each other. In a 1994 interview with The Inquirer, Waylon said, "I think he's the luckiest SOB in the world. He's gotten more out of nothing than anybody I can think of." He felt that Garth's music lacked real substance and didn't represent the true country. In the book Dreaming Out Loud, Garth Brooks, Winona Judd, Wade Hayes, and the Changing Face of Nashville, Waylon is also quoted saying, "He's the most insincere person I've ever seen. He thinks it's going to last forever. He's wrong." It's not hard to see why Waylon felt such contempt, as he believed Garth had changed country music for the worse. Garth addressed Waylon's remarks in an interview with Broadway On Air, admitting, "Yeah, I was definitely the guy that he targeted. I just think he was addressing the different sound in country music and the changing of the guard. That's tough for anybody to handle." He ended the conversation by saying, "The guy's a legend and deserves nothing but respect." Garth's respectful and diplomatic attitude was commendable, and perhaps one more reason why Waylon wasn't fond of him. Garth simply wasn't the type to push back. Interestingly, this isn't the only time Garth has been pushed to the wall with comments and decided not to react. 13. Eric Church versus Garth Brooks. At the 2017 Country Music Association Awards, a sick Garth admitted to lip-syncing his performance of Ask Me How I Know. Though he was named Entertainer of the Year, his lackluster delivery sparked debate about whether he truly deserved the title. Eric, for one, didn't hold back. Speaking to Rolling Stone, he said, "So, the winner of the biggest award of the night lip-synced during the biggest moment of the show? Forget that, and I didn't buy his excuse at all. He made it sound like he was speaking for the rest of us nominees. I can only speak for myself. I'm not lip-syncing. If I can't sing, I won't, or I'll sing badly. But at least what you see is real." Wrapping up his rant, he added that lip-syncing is a red line for him because it's fake. He didn't want younger artists thinking it's acceptable because it's not. Though Eric is known for speaking his mind, he wasn't alone in criticizing Garth. Anderson, a fellow singer-songwriter, made his disapproval known on social media, tweeting, "This truly offends me. I was always told that country music is 3 chords and the truth." Even years later, Eric still seemed to be holding a grudge. On November 16, 2019, during a performance in Washington, D.C., he threw shade at Garth while covering Waylon's classic, "Are You Sure Hank Done It This Way?" In a clip from the show, Eric can be seen altering the lyrics to say, "I know Garth didn't do it this way," before laughing and sharing the moment with his bandmates. In truth, the resentment wasn't just about that one performance. Eric explained to Rolling Stone that he'd pushed himself through a grueling 5-month tour in 2017, playing long sets several nights a week. The exhausting schedule led to weight loss and burnout, but it also earned him a nomination for Entertainer of the Year. "I thought if we ever had a shot, that was it," he said. Still, the award went to Garth as his 6th time winning it. Garth Brooks acknowledges that if the situation had been reversed, his own fans might have acted just like Eric Church's did after the Country Music Association Entertainer of the Year award last week. When asked about Eric's comment during his performance in Washington, D.C., Brooks said he understands that Eric was speaking to his own audience. He also understands why some of Eric's fans showed up at the concert, with signs proclaiming the Monsters singer as the real Entertainer of the Year. 12. Tim McGraw versus Curb Records. Tim was one of the biggest artists on Curb Records, the label where he first rose to fame. However, the relationship eventually soured, leading to a legal battle in 2011. On May 13, 2011, Curb filed a lawsuit against Tim for breach of contract, claiming he delivered his Emotional Traffic album too early. The label argued that the contract required him to wait 18 months between albums. Curb refused to release the record, while Tim maintained that delivering Emotional Traffic fulfilled his final obligation to the label. In response, Tim filed a countersuit, alleging that Curb was essentially keeping him in involuntary servitude by forcing long gaps between albums, a tactic he believed was meant to stretch out his contract. He also argued that the label's release of 7 Greatest Hits compilations was another attempt to keep him tied down, since each release reset the 18-month waiting period, even though he never wanted to release those collections in the first place. By November of 2011, a judge in Tennessee ruled that Tim was free to record elsewhere while the legal battle continued. In May of that year, Tim had already signed with Big Machine Records. His first album under the New Deal, 2 Lanes of Freedom, came out in February of 2013. Curb then argued that Tim was still under contract when he recorded the new album and claimed ownership of the songs, but in September of 2012, an appeals court upheld the earlier decision that Tim was free to work with a new label. Finally, in February of 2013, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear Curb's case, and a U.S. District Court judge followed suit in August of the same year, effectively bringing one of country music's biggest legal battles to a close. 11. Randy Travis versus Lib Hatcher. Randy and Elizabeth were married for 19 years before their divorce in 2010. Elizabeth also served as Randy's manager, and after their split, both filed lawsuits accusing the other of damaging Randy's career. Elizabeth claimed that armed men arrived with a large truck and took nearly all of the property and business records from her office. Randy, on the other hand, alleged that she tried to sabotage him by exposing personal aspects of his life. The conflict seemed to fade from public view by mid-2012, as Randy turned his attention toward sobriety and getting his personal life back on track following 2 widely publicized arrests. The feud essentially disappeared from headlines after Randy suffered a stroke in 2013. 10. Sugarland versus Kristen Hall. Kristen was one of the original members of Sugarland and helped write their breakout debut single, Baby Girl. However, her time with the group ended in a bitter legal battle when she filed a lawsuit against her former bandmates, Jennifer and Christian, on August 7, 2008. Sugarland came together in Atlanta's acoustic singer-songwriter scene during the early 2000s. They gained attention after a showcase in Nashville in July of 2003, which led to a deal with Mercury Nashville. Their first major label album, Twice the Speed of Life, came out in October of 2004, with Baby Girl becoming a huge success. On the 12th of January, 2006, Jennifer and Kristen appeared on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno without Kristen. Days later, an announcement stated Kristen had left the band because she wanted to stay home and focus on songwriting. Jennifer and Kristen moved forward as a duo, releasing Enjoy the Ride in 2006 and achieving even more success, including the massive hit Stay. That song, driven by Jennifer's powerful and emotional performance, swept the awards circuit in 2007 and 2008 and became one of their most iconic releases. By the time Sugarland dropped their third album, Love on the Inside, Kristen filed her lawsuit. She claimed she created the band's name, brought Jennifer and Kristen into the group, and funded their early efforts using her own credit cards. Kristen also said she managed the band early on, handled bookings, designed promotional materials, and re-recorded Baby Girl after 2 rejected versions. She wrote or co-wrote every track on Twice the Speed of Life and said she was entitled to 1/3 of the band's profits. She accused Jennifer and Kristen of breaching their partnership agreement and fiduciary duties and initially sought $1.5 million, later increasing the demand to $14 million. She requested a jury trial. Jennifer and Kristen denied her claims, arguing Kristen had no profit-sharing agreement after she left the group. Just 3 days before a public trial was set to begin in November of 2010, the lawsuit was settled privately. The terms were not disclosed, and Kristen has stayed mostly out of the spotlight since her departure. 9. Tyler Hubbard versus Bryan Kelly. Tyler and Bryan made up one of country music's most commercially successful duos of the 2010s as Florida Georgia Line. Together, they brought a fresh blend of country, pop, and hip-hop influences that defined the bro country era with hits like Cruise, HOLW, and Meant to Be. But behind the scenes, tensions were quietly building. In 2020, fans noticed something was off when Tyler unfollowed Bryan on Instagram during the presidential election. Tyler later refollowed him, but not before speculation swirled about political disagreements and personal friction. Tyler downplayed the tension in interviews, saying they'd had brotherly arguments before and that their friendship was strong. Still, it became clear that the two weren't seeing eye to eye creatively or personally. By early 2021, both artists announced solo projects. Tyler started working on his own music, eventually releasing his debut solo album, while Bryan also released a solo record and began working on new ventures, including launching his own label. They insisted Florida Georgia Line wasn't breaking up, just taking a break. But fans weren't entirely convinced. In 2022, after a final tour together, the duo officially put things on pause. Tyler later revealed that they needed the break, confirming there had been tension and they had different viewpoints on multiple fronts. While they haven't publicly feuded in the same way other country stars have, the quiet split between Tyler and Bryan was a notable example of creative, political, and personal differences, putting an end to one of country music's biggest modern partnerships. 8. Zack Brown Band versus the Lost Trailers. Long before the Zack Brown Band became a household name, Zack Brown was just a hard-working Georgia musician trying to make a name for himself. One of the songs he penned during those early days was Chicken Fried, a feel-good track that would eventually become his breakout hit. But before it ever hit radio with his own band, the Lost Trailers got their hands on it. In 2006, the Lost Trailers, a rising act signed to B&A Records, recorded and released Chicken Fried as a single without Zack's blessing. Although Zack had originally given permission to record the song, he later changed his mind, saying he didn't feel comfortable with anyone else cutting something so personal. B&A Records pushed forward anyway, releasing the single to radio. Zack, frustrated and feeling betrayed, stood his ground and demanded the label pull the song. His reasoning was that the song is very special to him and he didn't want it to be someone else's calling card. Eventually, B&A caved and the song was pulled, and the lost trailers were left empty-handed. The incident caused a major setback for them, while Zack Brown Band would go on to release their own version of the song in 2008. That version became a #1 hit and launched their career into the stratosphere. Zack came out on top, and the lost trailers never fully recovered from the loss. The feud wasn't dragged out publicly, but there has been no public reconciliation between them till today. 7. Hank Williams Jr. vs. ESPN. For over 2 decades, Hank Williams Jr. was the voice of Monday nights in America. His iconic line, "Are you ready for some football?" kicked off ESPN's Monday Night Football broadcasts and became a cultural staple. But in 2011, that all came crashing down after Hank made some fiery political comments during a Fox News appearance. During the interview, Hank compared then-President Barack Obama golfing with Speaker of the House John Boehner to Hitler playing golf with the Israeli Prime Minister. A comparison that didn't sit well with many, especially ESPN. The network quickly distanced itself, calling the comments inappropriate, and pulled Hank's theme from that week's broadcast. Shortly after, the decision was made to end the long-standing partnership altogether. Hank wasn't quiet about it, as he immediately fired back, saying ESPN had stepped on the toes of freedom of speech, insisting that his remarks were misunderstood. He doubled down by releasing a song titled "Keep the Change," where he blasted both ESPN and Fox News for how they handled the controversy. The move divided fans, as some sided with Hank, claiming cancel culture had gone too far, while others felt ESPN was right to cut ties given the nature of the comments. For the next 6 years, Monday Night Football aired without its signature opening. Luckily, time has a funny way of smoothing things over. In 2017, ESPN brought Hank back into the fold with a slightly reworked version of his famous theme. The network framed it as a return to tradition and fun, saying the decision had nothing to do with politics. So, while Hank's voice is back in the NFL mix, the 2011 fallout remains one of the most high-profile examples of politics colliding with country music and primetime sports. One notable feud in country music is between Shania Twain and her ex-husband Mutt Lange. Though more personal than profession, it still shocked fans. 6. Shania Twain versus Mutt Lange. The two had a highly successful professional partnership, with Mutt producing Shania's breakthrough albums, including her massive hit Come On Over. Their relationship took a dramatic turn in 2008, when Shania discovered that Mutt had an affair with her close friend Marie-Anne Thibault, who was also Shania's assistant. The betrayal shattered their marriage and led to their divorce. This led Shania into a long period of personal reflection as she took a break from her music career. She later married Frédéric Thibault, who was Marie-Anne's ex-husband, in a twist of fate that was almost too ironic to believe. She made her return to music in 2017 with the release of her album Now. Till today, she hasn't forgiven her ex-husband for his infidelity. 5. Jason Aldean vs. CMT. In July 2023, Jason released the music video for the song, which featured footage of protests and police confrontations. Critics claimed the video included racially charged imagery, especially since it was filmed at a courthouse in Columbia, Tennessee, which had ties to a historical lynching. As a result, CMT removed the video from its playlist, citing concerns about its content. Jason responded strongly, defending the song as a statement about crime and the values of small towns. He argued that the backlash was an example of cancel culture and that his song was misunderstood, emphasizing that he didn't intend to promote violence or racial division. Their relationship soured and remained icy for a while. Then, in 2024, Jason returned to perform the song at the CMT Music Awards, but his performance sparked more criticism because it was held near the site of a notorious mass shooting. This ignited renewed debates about the song's themes and whether it was appropriate for such an event. The situation has now led to broader conversations about the role of country music in addressing political and cultural issues. Supporters of Jason argued for artistic freedom, while critics believed it was necessary to challenge content they saw as harmful or insensitive. 4. Brittany Aldean versus Maren Morris. Brittany Aldean posted a gender-related comment that many viewed as transphobic. This led to Cassidy Pope and Maren Morris criticizing her. Brittany then went on Fox News to defend herself as she labeled Morris a lunatic country music person. This led to both women launching rival t-shirt fundraisers for their causes. Till today, their relationship remains tense and ideologically opposed. 3. Toby Keith versus the Chicks. Natalie Maines called Keith's post-9/11 anthem ignorant. Keith then retaliated with a doctored image showing Maines with Saddam Hussein. The feud escalated during a patriotic cultural climate. Keith eventually dropped it after a deeply personal tragedy. The Chicks moved on, but they have yet to have any public reconciliation between them. 2. Dolly Parton versus Porter Wagoner. The feud between Dolly Parton and Porter Wagoner began in the 1960s when Dolly joined Porter's TV show, and they formed a successful partnership. However, as Dolly's career grew, she felt constrained by Porter's control and wanted her independence, especially after the success of songs like Jolene. In 1974, Dolly left Porter's show to pursue a solo career, which led to growing tension between them. Porter publicly criticized her for being ungrateful, while Dolly explained that she needed to follow her own path. Despite the conflict, Dolly always spoke of Porter with respect, acknowledging the role he played in her success. Before Porter's death in 2007, they reconciled, and Dolly expressed regret over their difficult split, recognizing the significant influence Porter had on her career. 1. Charlie Rich versus John Denver. The feud between Charlie Rich and John Denver became public at the 75 Country Music Association Awards. Charlie, who was a seasoned country artist, became upset when John Denver, a pop-leaning singer, won the prestigious Entertainer of the Year award. Charlie, feeling that John's style wasn't true to country music, made his displeasure known in a very public way. When presenting the award to John, Charlie set the trophy on fire, causing an uproar. His actions were seen as a direct attack on John, who was considered by many to be an outsider in the country music scene at the time. The moment shocked both the audience and the music industry alike. Although John Denver later expressed that he understood Charlie's frustration, the incident strained their relationship. After the incident, both men continued their careers, though the rift between them was never fully healed. This incident remains one of the most famous moments in country music history, showcasing the palpable tension between traditional and more commercial forms of country music. What do you think of these feuds? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. To enjoy more exciting videos, click play on the video on your screen. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get notified when a new video drops.